Okay.
All right, Dennis.
Hey, good evening.
We have people joining fast and furious with us tonight.
Absolutely. It's good to be back. Week 4 already. Fired
I can't
up,
believe it.
raring to go. I got to tell you, it's an exciting night tonight. We are digging into some super information in regards to growing distribution. So that's a good thing. We got Jamie coming in from Seattle, by the way.
Oh, good. He's telling us. People are telling us where they're from. We want to
Collins
make sure
on.
you can hear us.
Okay.
All right.
Tampa's ready to rock and roll. Okay.
Yeah, tonight will be one of the most important, not that they're not all important, but one of the most, tonight, next week, I think, Dennis, will end up being 2 of the most important sessions that we have. And I would tell anybody that's on right now, I did this right before I came on. I sent texts out to a whole bunch of people saying, hey, you do not want to miss this week and next week if you can jump on live, because I think this is an area we can probably, almost all of us can improve on. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And you know what, to me, when we start talking about the prospecting and qualifying and sponsorship of partners that really can affect the outcome of our hard work, it's just probably one of the best topics and probably the most in demand topics. In fact, as we talked about getting started, there was just too much information in one day. So we had to call an audible team and put together part 1, part 2. And what we've done, and we'll repeat this as we get going, as more and more participants come on tonight, that we'll move this into combining the GMTSS with selling tickets, which will be in week, what would be 6, so it's pretty exciting on that. And by the way, welcome back to Wisconsin, Jim. It's good to have you from Phoenix, now back in Wisconsin. And so now I believe the leaves are on the tree. Is that correct?
The leaves are coming on the trees. I got one boat in the water, although it's about 50 degrees, so I'm not going on that boat yet. Let it warm up a little more, but it is good to be here. And well, I'll finish the series from Wisconsin over these next 7-8 weeks, Dennis. So which will be
absolutely, absolutely. It's good to have so many people come in April. Welcome, Phyllis. All right, great.
I see some of my teammates on the accountability groups coming in. I'm proud of you guys for jumping on. It's great. Wendy Moquin, great to see you. All right.
Spent some time with Wendy and her team. I'm excited about what's coming up with their efforts over the next few weeks. My goodness, New York. Can't beat that.
Well, why don't we roll in, Dennis? You want to share your screen? We got a lot
let's do that. Let's
to
get
cover.
going.
So are you guys ready? We're going to ask we will be asking for participation throughout this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And let's get ready to get our prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring hats on. 12 weeks. Oh, Dennis, look at you. You get those subtitles going?
Yeah, I got the subtitles going tonight.
Why does it say they aren't available? Please check your microphone privacy settings. Well, I don't know if we can restart PowerPoint.
Well, that's okay. That'll disappear here momentarily, and we'll be all set to go. Yeah. Good. So this is our 12-week masterclass, and it's great to get started. Just a quick review so that everyone knows where we're coming from. We had week 1, the where, the why, the what, and the how of our Master on Franchise Owner program. Then we've dove into base 10, the best tools to use, building that out and retailing. We talked last week, Jim, I'll tell you what, it was a fast and furious session. The IBV machine was quite impressive, quite frankly. I found out a lot more things that we added on this past week. Good job.
Yeah, that was fun. Had a lot of great, thank you for the comments that you guys are putting out, letting us know. I had people messaging us saying that right away they were ordering more IBV just on what they learned that night. So that was great. You're taking it and you're using it, and that's again the homework and the accountability sheet we're talking about. We've got some fun things to talk about with that.
And if y'all notice in the scheduling here, we're now going to do part 1, part 2 of prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring. So these next 2 weeks will be dedicated to that, expanding your distribution. moving into earning commissions faster, as well as talking about our diagnostic test. But we are going in week 6 to talk about the GMTSS and the importance of training, the why, the what, and how to sell tickets. So that will be very strong. A lot of people have asked about troubleshooting and conversational marketing, Jim. And I just want everybody to know what that topic is, as so many of you are so close. We want to talk a little bit about making some minor adjustments, refining some things which could make the world a difference in growing your business. And then we'll run into the prospecting with product, and then moving up with follow-up and closing, which is going to be a powerful session also. And of course, going through the first 90 days with your partner, and then getting into leadership, because leadership is so important when it comes in building an effective organization and imprinting in your business. Homework was fun, Jim, wasn't it? To see some
it was. Try one new shopping annuity IBV product you've never used before. In the chat, let us know what did you try. We want to know who picked something up. And what did you try? Contact a minimum of 5 current customers and ask them to download Shop Buddy. Now, it was interesting, Dennis. I was telling you earlier, I had some of my teammates who were telling me that was a great exercise for them because they had never done it. And now they were getting customers to be able to do that, which is great. That's going to lead to more IBV towards the Master UFO program. Mm-hmm. One of the things we asked, and that you and I really enjoyed on the people who sent it in. Again, if you're on this, we do expect you to send in the homework. It's part of doing it if you're gonna go full out on it. But was your plan to get to 30 IBV per week or 120 per month? I love that. I see immunity on there, shaving kit for women. Good job, guys, on this. But what was the plan? And then, of course, your accountability each week. Which is great. So I want to give just a huge round of applause to all the people who are doing this on a weekly basis, and Dennis really hitting that homework, and we're seeing it, and we know who you are, and we congratulate you for that.
Absolutely. It's about the action that follows the training that's really going to make you cash in on what we're talking to. So let's get into prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring. And, I was thinking about this, Jim, and I wrote this down and put it on a slide. And prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring, what do these 3 words represent to you, to me, and what we look at? And, quite frankly, I talk so frequently about base 10 and getting the cash flow moving for your business. But when we start talking about prospecting, qualifying, sponsoring, I've always looked to that to fulfill my goals financially in building that income that I'm looking for. What's it mean to you?
Well, when I think to me, this means expansion of that business. It means really taking what you just talked about, base 10, and taking that and multiplying it over and over again. You and I were talking earlier today, as we do every day, but especially when we're prepping for these. And I said, it's like, to me, I always think about this, and I think it's like, do I want to be one Starbucks, or do I want to own all of the Starbucks and have all the multiples? And from the minute I started this business, the first thing I looked at was I want to be the person who can expand distribution through people. So everybody's doing 10 customers, not me doing 100 or doing 200. That's my thoughts on it. And of course, that's just the getting them started. Then it becomes what really is a sponsor, Dennis, which, over the years, we've worked so closely on it. It's just so much more than bringing somebody in the business.
Yes. And, coming up and talking through this, to be effective at what we do here, there's a lot of belief that follows in your ability to effectively prospect and qualifying your potential partners, and then ultimately getting them in the business. But what, to me, when you really break it down, it's about creating that supplemental income and duplicating your efforts and leveraging your time. My goodness, you said it earlier with the math. There's a bigger opportunity for multiple people to touch more customers, to expose our business to more people versus one individual. And this was really important. So everyone that wants to improve in this area of prospecting and qualifying and sponsoring really has to understand, what does this play in the process of the basic five, the expansion to meet your goals. I mean, this is a big part of what we do. And I'm just thrilled that we're able to spend the time here.
When you talk about that too, I think one of the areas, I've seen the company grow on, Dennis, is the qualifying too. I know when I started, I wasn't real good at that. I was like, okay, they fogged a mirror, they're good to go. And now I really understand it makes more sense to qualify, to make sure, are they the right person, or were they better off being a customer? And we've, with JR really bringing that evaluation approach back to all of us again. I think he's done a great job with that. And of course, all of us sort of making sure we're doing it the right way now and bringing in the right people.
Absolutely. And with the goals, when you start thinking about the number of people you'll expose this to, I loved his mathematical equation. Do you want to close one of two, or happen to have a 50% closing ratio, or what's your closing ratio for 100 people? You only need to get 8% of them to get 8 personally sponsored. It's just awesome when you think about it that way.
So what we want you guys to do is, as we start this session, we want you to think, okay, what is my goal for 2021? How many people do I personally want to sponsor? And whatever number you say is okay, but I'm going to tell you, I think, Dennis, they've got to say at least 3, because if they're going to be master UFOs, they've got to do at least 1 per quarter. And we've got these 3 quarters left. So a minimum of 3. I would hope a lot of you would be pushing for 2 per quarter, doing that. And when we talk about that, then what we want you to think about is, okay, if I want to sponsor 3, let's use that number. Well, how many evaluations do I have to do? So if you're a person who, when you talk to, I see some numbers coming in. Dodie, I see yours at 6. I love that. So let's use 6, Dennis. I'll use 6.
Okay.
So let's say that you're a person who, if you do 5 evaluations with people, you typically sponsor 1 person over time. Okay. Well, if you do 5 and you want to sponsor 6 for the year, you have to do 30 evaluations for the year. How many weeks do we have left in the year? Well, if we take a look at it, and by the way, we should take a look at that and see, then you're going to need to be doing about, at least 1 a week. Now, I know a lot of people who say, well, when I do an evaluation, I'm looking for referrals and I'm not always, going right to that person. So maybe it's 1 out of 10. Well, if you sponsor 1 out of 10 and you want to sponsor 6 people for the year, then we're talking, you need 60 evaluations for the rest of the year. Let's say there's 30 some weeks left, 30 weeks. So then it comes down to 2 per week. See, to me, this has always been about math. And I know anytime I'm struggling sponsoring, it doesn't come down to I can't sponsor. It comes down to I'm not putting it in front of enough people. So what Dennis and I want you to do is, okay, I love all of you putting those numbers in. Bob Pruszinski, I love the 6. That's great. Dorothea, 3. You're putting them in. Now, how many times do you have to get this in front of a person with an evaluation? How many people to do that? So now I want you to figure that out. How many am I going to have to do it? And by the way, Dennis, some of those numbers, it doesn't matter if you're great at it or what you would consider bad. One of the moving up seminars, you might have been on this one. We did with Drayton Hodo's group, and Drayton's of course got a fantastic group. Love these guys, high energy, great builders. But when I asked what the team did, they didn't hesitate. They said, we're 1 out of 13. I said, how do you guys know that? They said, we track it. Because on another moving up, we'd done this exercise. So 1 out of 13. So if they wanted to sponsor 6, they would have to do 52, 70, 78 presentations to sponsor 6 by the end of the year. And I said, Drayton, that's a big number, 13. He said, doesn't matter. He said, I know the number. If I have to do 13, we do 13. And really, that's the approach I think we've got to take with this. Then, how many team evaluations per week are you going to do? So meaning if you're doing your personal ones to get your personal sponsorships, well, that's great. But if Dennis brings me in the business, I know he's going to be doing evaluations with me. So because he wants to get me activated and he's the expert. So you got to think, okay, I'm bringing in 3 people, I'm bringing in 6 people. I've got a team already. How many team ones should I be doing? Because now we're sort of structuring out what we're going to be doing. So if you're doing 2 team evaluations per week, which I think would be a great goal, or 3 team evaluations per week, that's a great goal. And you're doing 1 or 2 personals. Now you got 4 or 5 evaluations going. Dennis, how do you think people would do if they had 5 evaluations a week between team and personal per week going on?
Totally growing. And the one thing you have to remember with each of the valuations that you're doing, you're getting better each time. So your closing ratio is only going to get better. And, don't let 50 or 60 or 70 evaluations slow you down. It's the saying about how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. You start with your first evaluation and then you get to the second one. And as your team grows, when you have your team evaluations, when you really look at it, if you're building to get the one done, you're really managing just 2 sides, and those numbers can be all done together because it is just going to evolve almost organically on how it's going to complete both sides of your organization. So very important.
Yeah, so keep track now. We want you to really measure this, because then you can measure, monitor, and adjust, which is so important in our business. If you find it takes more evaluations, it means you're just going to have to do more. If you find out it takes less, maybe you can take the time you've dedicated to yourself and now you can put that towards your team as well. Whatever it may be, we're measuring, monitoring. So has everybody got that down? How many people are you going to sponsor? I saw a lot of people write it. How many evaluations per week are you going to do? And how many team evaluations per week are you going to do? And then Dennis and I are going to ask at the end of each month. So the end of May, we're going to say, how you guys doing on your on your goals through May? How are you doing at the end of June on your goals to be able to hit mastery? You're going to be so excited that you're now paying attention. I did a new accountability group today, Dennis. It's actually a Shop Financial one we're working with. And the number one thing that came back was, holy cow, when I measure what I do, it shows me I don't do enough of the things that make money. And but a lot of times we're busy and we don't see that. So this is great, team. I'm glad you're doing this and taking that time. Great job, Evelyn. I love that. 6 sponsorships, 2 evaluations per week.
Absolutely great. You're putting that together. So let's talk a little bit more about getting those in, Jim. Why don't you take us through this building of a names list?
Okay, well, as Dennis, everything starts with first putting a names list together. And for anybody who's on this call, I'm a firm believer that we really don't run out of our warm market. We just start to believe that the ones we have won't look at it or won't do it. So when we talk about a warm market, Dennis and I want you to think about people you know, not people you think will do the business, not people you think that will like the business. Who do you know? 60 to 300 names. I will tell you, when I started, I was required to do 300 names, and it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I think we get a little bit like, oh, if you do 100, you're great. And I want to say, no, do 300. Come on, let's push it. If you want to be great, if you want to be okay, do 100. If you want to be great, get to that 200 and 300 name. Who do we know, Dennis? Friends, family, neighbors, right? Teammates on things we've done. High school, Absolutely. College, organizations, churches, groups we belong to. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Work colleagues. Some of the first people I talked to were people I really liked. That was one thing. I looked at it and said, who would I like to go on vacation with? Because I'm going to build a business with them. I got to spend a lot of time with them. Then it was, who did I love working with previously? Who was a go-getter? They were fun. They did the work. And then social media, and use all these things to start to put together a names list to do that. But we're going to ask you to have this ready to rock and roll like you did before. And, when you qualify it, there's certain things that, it's funny, sales or service experience, right? Why salespeople? They usually can talk. You know what I don't like sometimes about salespeople? Sometimes they're uncoachable. When you do put them on that list, realize one of the things we're looking for is coachability as well. That's where teachers, trainers, and coaches come in. You know, teachers, Dennis, have one of the highest success ratios in networking businesses. And we've seen a lot of them in our business that have gone on, you know, the Bolts, who are $1 million earners, Fred and Barb, Norm Roth, who's an executive field vice president with the company. You look at these people and you see that. Why? Because they can speak, they can talk, they're used to a lesson plan with what they do.
Right. They're very disciplined in what they put out there, and they're consistent. They understand what it takes, but they also have nurturing capabilities. I also find the coaches are very good at this too. That coming from an athletic background, you know, either at the junior or senior high school level, college level is very good. And of course, when you get a professional trainer, if they're able to focus in on what we do as unfranchised owners, and that's always the challenge that one has in going through each of their names lists. But you know, I just wanted to mention this based on that names list. One of the things that I find, Jim, the reason I thought that you grew so rapidly is I believe that 300 names plus that you came in with was who you focused on. And many of the people that I work with tend to tell me about who they meet versus who are they talking to from their list. And that really tells me a lot. You know, are you working it whenever, or are you basically scheduled to make your calls to get that number of evaluations? And that was an important thing for me. Work your names list. Don't tell me who you met at the grocery store. That's just telling me you didn't call anybody. Oh, by the way, I met somebody at the grocery store. Good for you. Add them to your name list.
That is a great point. And why do we call the person from the grocery store? Because they don't know us. And if they're not interested, it won't hurt as bad as the 300 people we do know that really should be the ones we should be talking to, right? Because they do know us. They're going to probably eventually listen and know us because they know us a little better. What a great point. Two great points, Dennis. The other was about teachers being nurturing. The reason they have that success, I never really thought of it that way, but they are very nurturing. And that's a big part of our business, is being able to do that.
Yes.
You know, you were an entrepreneur. You owned a franchise, right? Before this?
Yes, absolutely. I knew that I needed to carve my own path, you know, so small business owners will do that. And one of the biggest things that I learned is that dealing with small business owners, the unfranchised business gives them one more way to leverage the clientele that they already work with based on their needs. And it comes back to matching products to people and people to products. And so that really is a good area to look into.
Great. And real nice for them. I love what you just said. Leverage what they already have, leverage their existing clients, leverage the existing business. So they've got to jump ahead of most people because they've got a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And they've got business experience. There's a difference in somebody who understands it costs some money to build a business and somebody who's been used to getting paid for every hour they work. It takes a mind shift a little bit. And with those entrepreneurs and business people, we don't have to do it as much. What about people of influence, Dennis? Do you ever struggle talking to them, or, you know, because they're good people, right? I love people with great attitudes. I love people who have a lot of influence, but I do think people get scared to talk to them sometimes.
Boy, you hit that one on the head, because they don't feel they're in their same ranks. They don't want to get into that space. But I have to tell you, people that have influence, have success, are people that want to learn more. They want to be aware of what's out there to see it once again, if it can help their enterprise or an enterprise they want to be involved with.
Man, that's so true. You know, when I started, my sponsor and I had very different views on the business. He said, I'm going to find everybody who's really broke and needs the business. And I said, I'm going to find people who are already successful, who would look at this and maybe help me find other people or do it on their own. Because I know one thing I know about people who are successful, they tend to be open-minded about making more money, guys. And that's something a lot of us forget, is that they tend to be open-minded, and it wasn't always for them, but a lot of times they said, you know what, I've got this person I know who's a go-getter, but they're not in a good position in life in where they're working. That's someone you should talk to, Jim. And that's what led to a lot of early sponsorships. What about people who've had money? Dennis, you ever seen someone have money and lose it? Whoa. They're ready to work.
Times.
Yeah.
Several times. But again, the people that had it want it again. They're willing to do. They know what it takes, you know.
That's right. They're willing to put those hours in. You know, prior networking and direct sales experience, Dennis, you were $1 million earner in another company. $1 million. Was that $1 million in a year?
Yep, actually it was $1.2 million in 1 year. Well, that was my MLM career back in the 80s, you know, gosh. But again, when you start thinking about it, I saw the success, but I also saw the rapid downfalls, you know, up one day, down the next, off to the next company, you know. But that's where I found the home here at Market America and our unfranchised business.
So what I want everyone to understand is you take someone like Dennis, who's had great success in another company, or someone who's had some success in another company. I'm sure, Dennis, when you looked at this and you saw the way it was built and how it was based on everybody being able to earn instead of the guy on the top, your immediate thought was, this is going to be my longevity. I mean, of course it has been. You're almost 30 years now, you know, but those people are great because they already know how to talk to people. And when they look at this, we got to highlight what makes us so different, as JR always does, because that's what he wants us to. Those people are some of the top people in the world, but they just need the right vehicle, and we can give it to them. And then people with access to large networks are great too.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about where do you go once your list is in place. One of the things that you have to remember is we ask for a top 10 list when someone comes into the business working from their names list. And this is something that's really important for your senior partner to help train you and get you up to speed so we can make you dependent. We always want to work with you, but our job is to make you independent, not dependent on us. Right. And that we basically work in a buddy system to give you the confidence until you can become the buddy for someone on your own team. But these approaches should be talked about with your senior partner. There is strategies going into the people. That's one of the reasons that the top 10, I like to think more of people I'm associated with. I know them better. I have a better opportunity to talk through the approaches with senior partner. That was something JR did with me quite a bit when we were talking about different individuals. And even to this day, when I think back when JR used to come from North Carolina to Philadelphia, you know, to work with me, he basically went with me and we went out and spoke to people about the business until I was up and ready to run. And building those relationships were very important, but following his lead really set me into my own style using his techniques, basically understanding about the advantages of what we did. But this is something that you alluded to earlier, and I want to just build upon this for everybody. The warm names. I know a lot of us say, don't talk to your family. They not going to listen to what you have to say. Well, it may not be your family, but in some cases it could be. But you want to talk to that top 10 list that know and trust you, you know, people that want you to succeed. I think this is really important that you understand. If you can get in front of people that want you to succeed, or they've encouraged you and are interested in what you have to say, that's very important. And then think about, who are those people that want to spend time with you, who invite you to social events, and also who shares things that make them excited? Do you get calls from individuals when they learn something new? These are all top 10 candidates that you want your senior partner to be with as you go out and learn the business, because there's a better opportunity to match the product or match the business to that individual.
I think that, you know, you said this earlier when we were reviewing, people who encourage you and are interested in what you say. And I thought that was so great. We all have those people in our life that, you know, they've been there for us in good times and bad. They encourage us. Again, it may not be that they want to do it, but those are great people to get in front of. Totally agree with you on this, Dennis.
Awesome. Okay. So let's get into this.
We're gonna have some fun. Those of you who've ever been to a training with me know I love to do this. We're going to take 3 minutes to get you going again. You know, it's been a little while since we had that names list in the very beginning. We're week 4 right now. We're a month into it. So I am going to put a timer on my phone for 3 minutes. And here's what I'm going to do. And Dennis, feel free to jump in if I'm forgetting a category. But in 3 minutes, I'm going to name different things, and I want you to write down names you think of. Not phone numbers, just it could be first name, it can be last name, it can be guy at the dry cleaner, whatever it is. But I want you to write it down. We're going to see how many names can we put together in 3 minutes. And I'm just going to do this off the top of my head, although I've done it a few times, so I think we've got it. But you can go online, you know, you can find some great, if you type in memory jogger and Google it, you can find some tremendous memory joggers, which will help you with that. But are you ready? Do you have your pen and your paper ready to go? I'm going to assume that is a yes. And here we go with 3 minutes. All right. So who do you know that's ever tried a diet program of any kind? Weight Watchers, Atkins, any type of thing like that. Who do you know that's an entrepreneur already? Maybe it's your dry cleaner. Maybe it's your accountant. Maybe it's someone. Who do you know that's ever called you and asked you to look at another business? Maybe they were in Mary Kay, or they were in Herbalife, or they were in Amway, or whatever it may be, but they ask you to look at something. So now we've got entrepreneurs that we deal with all the time, like restaurants. Who do you know that's a restaurant owner? Or who do you know that owns a restaurant? Works at a restaurant. Who do you know that's a server at a restaurant, a waitress at a restaurant? Those people are in need of extra income, as we know. Who do you know that's a new mom or dad? Maybe they have young children, and they would like to bring in an extra income. People would like to bring in an extra income who have young children. Who do you know that maybe they've hit that age where they're getting ready to retire or close to retiring, but they want to have something that excites them, something that's fun, and something they can do as they are entering the era of maybe not having a full-time job. I had a great meeting today with a lady, Dennis. Oh, I can't tell. I'll tell you afterwards. All right. I got 3 minutes to get names out. Who do you know that's a health professional? Who do you know that's a health professional? Your doctor, who's a nurse, who's a therapist, occupational therapist, a physical therapist that you work with of any kind. Who's a teacher? We mentioned teachers before. Who's a teacher that you know? Maybe it's someone who teaches, not your teacher, but teaches somewhere. Maybe it's a coach. Who do you know that works out all the time? They're at the gym on a regular basis. They do yoga. They walk on a regular basis. Who do you know that does any kind of physical activity? Who do you know that takes vitamins right now? That takes supplements? Maybe it's a one-a-day. Maybe they go to GNC and they talk about it. But who are those people that you know who are good supplement takers? How about people you know who are well-connected? Who's that person that walks into a room and they know everybody? Write them down. I know you're scared of them, but write them down. They know everybody. Who's an attitude magnet? They always have a great attitude. Whatever happens, they look at the bright side. They're ready to go. Who do you know that is like that? How about in sales? Who do you know in sales? What inside sales, outside sales? Maybe they have route sales, repeat sales of any kind. But who do you know that's had a sales career? How about management? You know, in our business, you got to manage, teach, coach. I'm at 3 minutes. I'm done. Finish your names up on that. That was 3 minutes and 2 seconds. And what I want you to do is to post how many names you did in 3 minutes in our chat. Tim, 28. Great job, buddy. I love that. Dan the man with 15. I love it. Well, very good. So Dennis, that's an easy exercise to show.
I'm quite impressed. You just rambled on. I'm writing down different things for myself. People in charities, people that are into beauty, people that travel, people into fashion, first responders, the police. I mean, you can go through so many different things, local politics. All of the different things you came up with is just fabulous. And whether it's 15 names, 30 names, or whatever, it just takes a bit of time. You hit that right, a home run out of the park, buddy.
I thought we're seeing a lot of that 15 to 30, but I saw one person on here, Dennis, with 66 names in 3 minutes. I think they just were going. I mean, they're probably right now shaking their hands. Great job, everybody. Really proud of you for doing that. Dennis, great additions with that. First responders. What were some of the ones, people who work in charity?
Well, that's it. People in fitness, law enforcement, people that are into beauty, into travel, into fashion, people that have been recognized in your community. Always, somebody that's either in insurance or real estate. If you know any of those individuals, they're already in sales, as we talked about earlier. They're people kind of persons, it's great.
Right. And as great as it is to get that initial names list set, then we keep adding them. And, team possibilities are, when Dennis and I sort of grew up in the business, him a little bit before me, but it was always add 2 names a day. How do you add 2 names? But then it was all physically meeting people. Now you have social media, you have all these different ways, but I think we get a little lazy in not adding the way we should. Because once you have this initial list, Dennis talks about when I had 300, and that was my goal. I was taught, get 300 names off the list. How do you get them off? By talking to them. But I was already, by the time I got to day 3, I was on 360 because I kept thinking of more people now that I was actively thinking about the business. So add 2 names per day.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that you want to remember.
Yeah.
And so where can you find these new prospects? And this was something, we talked a little bit earlier when we were talking about.
I love this, Dennis. You had so many good ideas on this, and what I love is it's things you do personally as well. It's not, oh, this might work. It's, hey, Jim, I did this and here's what's going on with it. Again, when we talk about leadership is doing what you expect your people to do. And Dennis, I got to give you a big shout out because you're doing what we're talking about here. It's great.
It's just things that you want to put yourself out there. Now, many of you have a great ability to communicate with people. And, recently, I'll go out. I'm going to be speaking to the Rotary Club in Greensboro, but I've spoken to the Rotary Club in Charlotte and North Mecklenburg County, and talking about entrepreneurism, talking about, online shopping, talking about ways to get that gig economy or that side hustle. What are they looking for today, or even new careers? Those are popular areas to get into. Networking groups, they're everywhere. Your Facebook groups, now with Clubhouse, you have an opportunity to start in those organizations online, reconnecting with people that you've talked to before COVID. Gyms have always been strong areas for me. I know for you too. I would imagine tennis competitions, and going out there. I know the golf course is also another great place to meet.
Anywhere people have some joint challenges or they're trying to stay active, we've got some answers. You're mentioning tennis. I as you know, play a lot of tournaments when I can get in with national tournaments. And every time I go, there's somebody there with a knee wrap on, or we're talking afterwards. And I will talk about our joint health product with them and an additional OPC3s and give them information. And I wanted to jump back to you on something, Dennis. Okay. When you were talking about the clubs or groups, when you talk about, whether it be Rotary, my wife just came home from an Optimist meeting just a few minutes ago. We don't go in there and think we're going to do one presentation and try to sponsor people, right?
No, it's truly about building the relationship. It's getting a trust, going. So once you have that exposure, it's nice because now people recognize you. They know your name. The kind of thing that makes it easier. Today, less than 3 months from the time that I started on the Rotary, Now I have some 60 new friends that any one of them I can go up to that I know will either take a trial size sample from me or give me an hour of their time so that I can let them evaluate the business. This is what I want all of you to understand. When you hear Jim or I say keep 30 or 40 people in motion at all time, that's cultivating those people that can become people that now are going to evaluate the business seriously and that they do care on what you have to say. You can go out and ask somebody, if I can show you a way to earn $3,600 a week, can we sit down and talk? You certainly can do that, but sometimes that creates either false expectations or it creates something too good to be true, especially if you're talking to somebody that's been working for 25 years and then just aren't making anything like that kind of income.
I love that. And what I loved what you said is making, in a matter of 60 days or 90 days, you've developed 60 people that you could give a trial size to and say, hey, would you evaluate this for me? Or have somebody evaluate it. Remember, change your thinking from, okay, Dennis met these people. Now he's got to show them the plan. They got to get involved to, hey, would you sit down, Dennis? Would you take a look at this for me? I'm expanding a business. I've loved meeting you. And I know we both know some good people. And I think if you saw what I was doing, you might be able to think of some that might support my business. Right. Something along that line. And that's what leads to it. And don't take the, the reason I put the time frame on, Dennis, as we were talking about this, sometimes people then take it and say, well, I'm going to go make friends for a year. No, it doesn't take a year. You've got 300 people you already know. We're talking about adding people and then being able to say, would you evaluate it or would you try a trial size? And you also had on there women groups and school groups, which we were talking last Friday on another subject and you brought those up. I thought that was great.
Right. The PTAs are great groups. They're moms in action. They want to know. They want to know for the health of their kids. They want to know, continue to learn. What are we doing in the community to make things better? If you have kids in school, become part of the activities at school. Booster clubs, all of those things just expose you to so many people. And don't go out there wanting to close the deal, as you said earlier. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems. And one of the problems that most of you have is you just go out and start swinging. Now, I know we talked, there was a time, what was it? When in doubt, blurt it out kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, if that's your style, that's great. It's never been my style. So, yeah.
It is. I'm much more comfortable with people I've got to know a little bit and just asking them to take a look for me. And, I think the key is when you're out, if you ask enough questions, and, this is an area of my life. And as we talk about prospecting, I will tell you, some of you just have to grow more. You have to get better. You have to work at this. I did. I was not good at asking questions. In fact, my wife would tell you that I'm a typically very quiet guy at home in terms of the way I am. And if I'm out in a social setting, if I don't know the people real well, I tend to be quieter. I had to learn by watching her, she's great at this, asking people questions. And as she asked people questions, what happened for me, Dennis, was all of a sudden I heard people basically asking me to show them the business, to talk about a product. She might say, well, what do you do for a living? Well, what do? They ask us back then. How long have you worked here? Finding out things about where they're working, what they've done. How long have you lived in the area? Do they know a lot of people? It's always very interesting. What brought you to this area? A lot of times you'll find, well, I moved here because, and a lot of times we're talking to the wrong person. You're talking to this person, and it really might be their spouse who has the interest or has the ability. Do you have family in the area? Do you do this full time, whatever they're doing in their life? That's great when you're at a restaurant situation with a server. It's so hard to get good service in life today. Anytime I get good service, I always compliment. It doesn't mean it's going to end up me getting their name and number for the business, but I'll say, it is so hard to get good service. You do a great job. How long have you been doing this, or is this your full-time occupation? And that brings more questions. Do you keep your options? If I really like somebody I've met, and I know I may not see them again, because that happens once in a while when you're in a retail setting or you're in a restaurant type setting. I might say, you did a great job. Do you keep your options open? I own a business. I'm looking to expand. You're the kind of person I would love to talk to, or you'll know the right people. Something along that. But as you can see, this is just questions, and stop talking about you. This is the hardest thing. Don't talk about you. Get them to talk about them, and then you're going to do great on prospecting.
So true. And this is the perfect example of asking open-ended questions. What you don't want to get into are questions that you get a simple yes and no, because if you do, you've got to be ready for the next question. And when you talk to someone, you said it with, do you keep your options open, that you are looking for people like yourself to evaluate a business that has been very successful for me. These things, that would be almost a direct approach, letting people know you're an option first for me versus you referring someone to me. I really love this slide only because so many of us just get tongue-tied when we get out in public. And what we try to do is we hurry up, try to get engaged with what we're out there looking for. And that's not always the best thing to do. Now, there's two handsome guys.
I don't know about that, but we had a lot of fun doing that, And, Dennis, on that last slide, I will tell you, sometimes when you ask enough questions, there's times Lisa and I have looked around, like, is there a camera here? Because they are just feeding, like, I have been, I do this, but I've been looking for a business, and you're thinking someone's playing a game on me right now. But if you don't ask the questions, you don't know that, right? And you and I this is on YouTube. That's where I took this picture from. But we took an hour one day, and we just got in front of a camera, and we wrote down about 10 themes, and you and I just talked. We did what we always do. And it was so much fun, but I think it would be really helpful for people to review this.
Absolutely. If themes are nothing more than opportunities to start conversation. And with those great questions that Jim put up there, last slide, with talking in themes, you start the dance process, as JR would call it. The most important thing is the longer you can keep a conversation going, the more likely that the person you're speaking to is going to give you some sort of opening to start crafting your questions to take that person to something they may need, or as we say, finding the pain doing that. But talking in themes as simple as, working for yourself, or have you ever, how often do you shop online? All of these different things, have you ever thought about owning your own business? All of the things that we offer right here in conversation open up people to, number one, trust you. Number two, to start listening to what you have to say and engage as you move forward.
And then even, franchise, we talked about when you get into answering a couple questions, was franchise versus unfranchise is a theme. What we do versus what a traditional franchise is. The 45-year versus the 2 to 3 year is a theme you can talk to. There's so many. The shopping annuity is a theme. When people ask, so get good at themes. I think it's something, to me, it was always something that made it easier for me to, it was my fallback when I was scared. I could get to a theme, and if I could get to a theme, I could talk through it. So I didn't have to memorize. Dennis knows I don't like writing everything down. I like to talk, but I like to have something that cues me to what I should talk to. And that's what themes do for me.
Hey, I just want to compliment you on wearing your unfranchised pin, your master unfranchised pin, buddy.
I was hoping, I was actually hoping you would notice that both of us have our master unfranchised owner pins on, which, by the way, we're putting ourselves out there. We're going to tell you, Dennis and I are both hitting master UFO this quarter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, I don't see that. What is that? Executive field vice president there, buddy. I don't see that pin, but I'm seeing You got the master on franchise owner pin on.
I'm more proud of my master on franchise. That's what got me the other pin. So I got to keep that one front and center.
Absolutely. That's something that we all can be proud of as we go forward.
It is. And, social media has made everything easier. It's made it, I'll tell you, it's made it lazier sometimes, but it's made it easier. We can get more names quicker. We can expand possibilities much quicker. Dennis, we were talking earlier, and Lauren did such a good job talking about the 3 C's, right? Yes. And I'm looking them up to make sure I don't mess this up. Compliment, congratulate, and console, right? Compliment, congratulate, and console. But how many of you have taken her thought on that and sending out a couple of those a day, or 2 or 3 a day? Doesn't take very long, easy way to do it. But keeping what we're really talking about, whether it's social media, whether it's texting, what I would say is it's really what she was trying to tell us is stay in touch with people. Mm-hmm. And with social media, you can do that. You can get back in touch with people you haven't talked to in a while. It doesn't mean trying to recruit them immediately. It means warming it up again. If you're saying, well, I need to warm up people now, well, you're going to need to warm up people a year from now or 6 months from now. So let's start some of these people along the road. Ask a lot of questions. We talked about that already. Another thing, Dennis, on social media is there's ways to get into different groups to learn different things. And it may not be that, again, you're going to recruit the people out of there, but you may have a connection with somebody in the group as you're part of it, that it may then bring you to a point where you can talk to them. So Dawn, I've mentioned Dawn Florio. Many of you know Dawn. I love her dearly. She's a great friend to Lisa and I. She's a very, very busy attorney, but she does some of the best product social media I ever see on Instagram. If you go to Dawn's Instagram, she's always got a product. She can be in front of a courthouse getting ready to walk in, and she's got a lipstick in her hand while she's taking the picture. And she'll put on here, got to look good for my case, have my motives, blah, blah, blah. And she sells so much product by doing little things like that. And she stayed so consistent with it. So we've got a lot of ways to do these different things, but use it smart. Don't overdo it on your personal social media. If all of a sudden you put in 100 posts about Market America, you have just driven off most of your friends. Drip on it, drip on it, drip on it.
And remember, social media is great, but get to getting either on the Zoom or getting in person as fast as you can to make it more personal. That's one of the big things that I've learned when working off of social media. Get there and get personal. It builds the glue and the relationship that helps you stay going forward. Okay. All right. Oops, one too many there. All right, your 2-minute commercial. One of the things that is so important, I refer to this as the bridge, the go-to. Jim, whenever you're talking to someone or getting ready to talk through an evaluation, one of the best things you can do is basically tell them your why. I always like to start by saying you're probably thinking why a former NFL player is involved with his own home-based business. Well, let me tell you. Okay. And
can you repeat, Dennis, repeat how you said it? You're probably wondering why. So that's something that anybody on here could say to someone. You're probably wondering why I'm involved with this company. The fact they didn't play in the NFL is irrelevant. It's people probably are wondering why. I love that start. Thank you.
Right. You're probably wondering why, as a successful professional or as an executive or a manager or, as a homemaker, that loves, taking care of the family. I've decided that I wanted more, it basically, no matter what you're doing, that is just such a comfortable way to gain into either showing an evaluation or getting ready to talk about what you do. And that's just been so powerful. And again, your whys are basically what your reason is that you decided to own an unfranchised. And whether it was I was sick and tired of living month to month on a salary that never seemed to grow. And I started this business to create a second income to take the stress out of my month. Okay. You probably know people like this, or you'd like to finish with a question. Have you ever felt this way? If the answer is yes, you want to move on and open the conversation is, have you ever looked at different types of businesses that would solve this challenge? I've made a career out of examining options. I found the best one, kind of thing.
I think, Dennis, you just opened a lot of eyes. I'm taking notes while we're doing a training. You're probably wondering why. I see people just writing answers on the chat. I think you opened something up that people are going to feel much more comfortable talking about as they're explaining the business. And I want everybody to understand, you don't have to have this, some people say you got to have a why that makes you cry. I disagree. I think your why is your why, and whatever it may be. And some people may have these huge whys, some people may have small. They're important to all of us, whatever they are. You just have to figure out what would it be that you would feel comfortable communicating.
Bingo. I think that's really important. And another big one is this one, Jim.
It is. What do you do? And a lot of us have full-time jobs, right? I do this all the time to this day, because people ask Lisa and I, will be somewhere and they'll say, well, what do you do for a living? And I'll say, well, I'm a vice president for a company. But, one of the things Lisa and I are both really excited about is we've owned our own business for 24 years. In fact, I own a business with the company I work for, and we're always bringing it to the business end of it. Because if I just say I'm a vice president of a company, you know what people say? Oh, that's cool. And it's done. If I say I own, what I'm excited about is our business that we own. And, I've never actually seen a better time for it than today. Then it becomes, what kind of business is it and why are you excited about it? So it's really trying to lead into that. And that doesn't matter if you're a teacher or whatever you do. It's great to be able to say that you're excited about or you're focusing on is.
Yes, absolutely. That's so very important. More that comes up is, when people stop, bringing up the business or fear of what's being asked of what is it? And this is where you have to get comfortable. You cannot be afraid and you cannot stumble when somebody asks you, what is it that you do? Or what is it if they're referring to Market America and shop.com? There are typical answers. And Jim, you may or may not agree with what I'm going to say here, but I'm going to throw this out. Yes, my standard answer for Market America Shop.com, it's a product brokerage and internet marketing company that specializes in one-to-one marketing. Yes, I know that, but sometimes that is a little bit complex. What is it? Well, primarily it's a distribution company. What is it? It's a great partner that I discovered when I decided to be on online shopping and being a part of the wellness industry. I needed somebody to do the work that I wasn't capable for, setting up my online experience, researching new products, being able to give me my marketing tools so that I could just spend my time. Market America Shop.com is so much to us. But ladies and gentlemen, you have to determine a comfortable way that you're going to explain it.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Dennis, on that, and using different ways. And I also agree on, if you say something a couple times and nobody ever asks you another question, you may want to then write that down and then cross it off and try a different way. Because this should be getting people to at least ask another question about what you do. I do, Dennis, have to tell this, my favorite what is it story. And that is when my mom was on the Moving Up seminar with Dennis Franks. My mom has passed. Yesterday was Mother's Day. I thought a lot about her during that. And I thought about this moment. And she had paid $1,000 to be on Moving Up seminar with Dennis Franks. And Dennis Franks had us in a circle. And he had everyone on my team saying, what is it? And well, it got to my mom. And my mom said, I'm paying you the $1,000. You should know what it is. And Dennis fell backwards on his chair, and he got up and he said, you know what? Any answer you give is okay. And it really was the way I've always thought of it. We get stopped because we try to think too much. You can say something, and even if you don't say it great, you'll recover because it's a conversation, not a final answer. This isn't Jeopardy. This is building a relationship about what you do and how you do it. And please always remember that.
Bingo. I think that's so, so powerful.
And once we have their interest, how do we convert that into an appointment? So if they are asking a lot of questions, and we're answering a lot, then it's time to say, you know what? And this was great. When I had kids who were in school age, Dennis, we'd be at games. All the kids were athletes. We'd be at a game. I'd be sitting with a parent and something would come up about work and they'd start asking me questions, say, you know what, Tom, love to share this with you, but I really want to focus on seeing John's game. Could we do that? Let's set an appointment up and it'll take half an hour. I'll just give you an overview of it and we'll go through it rather than trying to do it while we're trying to watch the kids. And that was just one way to get me to get to the appointment.
You bet. And I know there's some cases, I hear this often. Oh, we started off with a 30-minute appointment and we stayed 2.5 hours. Ugh, I don't know what to think about that, but on occasion, it's a free afternoon. They didn't plan on spending that time, but you had time available. That might happen, but please don't make a habit out of it. Respect, I guess, the professionalism of saying if you're asking for an hour, asking for 45 minutes or 30 minutes, end it at that. And set up the next appointment. I think that's really important. And I really like that answer, Jim, that you had.
Well, I love what you just said, because if you take that 2.5 hours, you think, oh, it's okay, I just did it. What are they thinking on what they have to do? They're thinking, I got to take 2.5 hours to explain this business and I've got to do this and that. If I get to half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever I've told them, and I feel like we need to do a little more, I'll say, look, I promised you I'd be done in 45 minutes. I probably got a little long-winded. Do you want to take another 15 minutes or would you be interested in scheduling another time? Either way, I'm trying to show them that we're professional, that we do it the right way, and that I'm not desperate also to just keep going forever with what I'm doing.
And you know what? These conversations that we're having here, I know many of you are listening and saying, that sounds great. And God, they're supposed to be like that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that we were not this smooth. I got to tell you, it was from thousands of times that we've done this with people as we've gone out and building our own business. So every day you got to talk or communicate with people. You have to engage. It all is about starting with a conversation, and it opens up all the possibilities and your ability to transition into either a product that you love or the business you want to share. But it all starts with this simple conversation. So please remember that. Don't make it complicated here.
And there's so many ways you can do this. Things like you'd be great at what I do. And some people say, well, I'm not comfortable saying something like that. If you're not comfortable saying something like that, don't say it. They can move into one of the other ones, couldn't they, Dennis?
You betcha. And everything that we're saying here on this particular slide comes from a conversation. It doesn't just means, walking up to somebody and say, are you someone who keeps your financial options open? That's a little bit abrasive, in my opinion, without getting into some sort of conversation and gaining some sort of trust, because somebody that you don't know, maybe if it's a warm market person, but if it's somebody that you don't know, you've got to have that conversation rolling.
Yeah. And, if I could show you a way, really comes down to if someone's saying, again, maybe someone you know pretty well, but maybe you've never talked about your business, and they're talking about they'd like to do something a little bit more, or they'd like to have a little more. A lot of times, a lot of my friends don't know exactly what I do until I tell them. And I say, Dennis, if I could show you a way that you could have what you're talking about, would you be willing to look at it? I've never even mentioned you. I own my own business. Part of what I do is I teach other people how to start businesses and earn additional income. Whether it's for you, I don't know. But if you're saying you need it, I'd love to show you how it could work.
I mean, that is as comfortable and smooth. this is not selling, folks. This is nothing more than throwing out options. You know, if you have an interest, fabulous. And if you don't, that's okay too. But you probably know the right people and can provide me with some great referrals. I was wondering if you can help me out and evaluate and learn about what I am doing. So again, all of these openings come from talking to someone, and you just got to be comfortable with that.
That's right. You know, Dennis, we are at, we're already 3 minutes over our hour. I'm glad we broke this into two, because we knew this would be like, why don't we hit this section and then we'll jump ahead to our homework.
Okay.
After we hit text call workshop section, and then we'll pick it up next week on the rest. That sound good?
Yes, sounds great.
All right, so let's talk about these text call workshops. So what are we talking about? We're talking about basically scheduling a time. For me, it is Tuesday at 4:30 Central. I have a team of 6 people that I meet with every Tuesday at 4:30, 5:30 Eastern, that we can then go through. And what we do, we get together, Dennis, we're all on Zoom. We talk for a few minutes about what's going on that week. You know, it might be, hey, we have Dennis Franks on Thursday doing the corporate UBP. It might be, we've got this in our group going on. And then we say, okay, let's make our calls and let's get back together at 5:15. We then mute our Zoom, make our calls. So I can see Tom Schneider making a call. I can see Todd Kiefer making a call. I can't hear it unless it's a new person I want to do that. But I can see them, and then we get back together and we say, okay, Dennis, how'd you do? I say, you know, how many texts did you get a hold of people, and how many appointments did you book? And at the end, we talk about it. And someone who's new might say, you know, I ran into this challenge. The person said this and this. Here's what I did. It didn't work out very good. What would you guys have done? And we do a quick review. And what it does is it gives us one time a week, because you know how the time gets away, how life gets in the way. One time a week, I know I'm at least reaching out to people about the business. And that's what this is. It's scheduled. It's positive people. It's coaching, all the things I just talked about. It increases your productivity. It's accountability, because you're saying how you did. And it continues momentum, okay? Because we've always said how important this is. And Dennis, these are from Moving Up seminars. One of the things we learned was people would say, well, I don't do well when I'm trying to get a hold of people. And we taught a couple things, and Dennis and I are going to teach this next week, what we say. But really, it just came down to, it's not even how you say everything. It's just picking up the phone and texting or calling. Well, in this example here, you see 322 appointments booked. WII means people, how many people asked, what is it? And no means 33 people said no. So we connected. This is where, on this one, we actually talked to people. 355 people answered a phone call out of 1,000 plus calls. But out of the 355, 322 booked an appointment. And it wasn't anything brilliant other than, I would love you to evaluate my business. You may know the right people, and blah, blah, blah. We did it. And they said, yeah, I'll do it. No problem. The next time I did one, it was 185 people we got a hold of. 173 said yes. Only 12 said, what is it? This is why I tell you, don't get caught up and all sweaty and nervous on what is it. Most people won't ask. And only 12 people said no. So really what Dennis and I are saying here is we're saying you can get there. You can get there. I think, Dennis, we need to leave this for next week. Would you agree with that? And we'll
yes. We'll come back. Let me just go ahead. We'll come back.
Back one more slide. Back one more.
Back one. Okay. Homework for the week. All right. Okay, folks, write this down or take a screenshot. We want you to review your names list and create basically your top 10 list. We want you to submit that to us. Don't worry, we're not going to be calling them. All right.
You don't have to send their phone numbers if you don't want to.
Right. We want you to write out your 2-minute commercial, your what is it, and your answer to what do you do. And then from there, we want you to conduct a call or text workshop with a fellow unfranchised owner. Now, we didn't go through all of the different parts of that, but you can refer it to one of the learning centers or go to Market America YouTube and find a call workshop or a text workshop.
If they type in call workshop or my name, there's an 18-minute video that'll pop up. So what we didn't cover, they can see on that. And we will cover it next week. We just don't want you to wait to start to make some calls. We want to hear back that you did it for 45 minutes. And what happened when you did this, guys? We're excited because we know when you do the work, the numbers will come.
Absolutely. And we want you to schedule at least two-on-one part ones or evaluations with a fellow UFO partner. It could be not only for this week, but the following week. Yep. And we want you to complete an actual home/Zoom business presentation, or at a minimum, a first look and a step one. So that's what your homework assignment is for this coming week. We'll do part 2 of the prospecting, qualifying, and sponsoring. Jim, any last comments before we sign off for the week?
You know, remember to send in also the accountability sheet with that. We do look at those. So you're doing that. And, Dennis, I would just, guys, you heard Dennis and I we're really, when I look at success, it comes from talking from your heart, treating people with respect, being a good listener, and being a good person. And you guys you're taking your time, you're on here. Please do the work Dennis and I are talking about, because this can really make a difference in your life and the life of so many. Dennis and I wouldn't be spending this much time preparing, going through it, and if we didn't feel this was something so great for you. So please do the work, because if you do the work, the rest will take care of itself. That's what I would leave with, Dennis.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And so I hope you enjoyed part 1. We'll be back next week with part 2. Don't miss it. We'll look forward to seeing your accountabilities. Have a great week. Do something positive for your business. Stay focused, stay the course. You'll end up at the top.
I love stay the course. Stay the course. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.